Good morning. Let me start with three observations. Um, with due apology to Liz, I'm an economist. Not a wrong one, not the right-wing one also, but let me introduce myself as a human economist. And secondly, it's always good to be back to Canada. I have a long Canadian connection. I did my PhD from McGill in 1983, and when I looked at the list of speakers, I saw 3 or 4 others who have their degrees from McGill, so there may be a McGill mafia in this room. My elder daughter graduated from McGill last year. Now she's studying in Dalhousie University in Halifax. My younger daughter was born in Canada. So it's always good to be back to your second home. And thirdly, I would like to thank the organizers of NTREE for giving me this opportunity to speak on the whole issue of human development and human development index, on which I have spent the last 10 years of my life with passion and professionalism. I will make my presentation by focusing on 5 W's. Why, what, where, who, and how. Why Human Development Index? What is the Human Development Index? Who are the users of Human Development Index? Where is the relevance of this index in the Canadian context? And how our experiences constructing and using the Human Development Index could be useful to the exercise that you are going to undertake. Why Human Development Index? When the first Human Development Report was produced in 1990, the motivation was a why not question, basically. And if you allow me to be a little bit poetic on this Tuesday morning, I would like to borrow 3 lines from Bernard Shaw, which he wrote in 1920. Some people see things as they are and say why. We dream of things that never were and ask, why not? So in 1990, we asked the question, why not have a development paradigm which brings back people to the center of debate and dialogue? Why not have a measure of that human development which is broader than economic growth and GNP per capita? Human development is all about enlarging people's choices. The ultimate objective of development, we always say, is enlarging the capabilities of people so that they can make broader choices in their economic, political, social, and cultural life. We always emphasize that development is of the people, for the people, and by the people. The objective of development is not economic performance, and therefore GNP per capita cannot be a measure of development either. There have been 3 motivations for constructing the Human Development Index. I call them a substantive motivation, a statistical motivation, and a political motivation. The substantive motivation can be summarized as the following. We went out for the Human Development Index knowing fully well that it is as vulgar as GNP per capita, but not as blind as GNP per capita to broader human well-being. The statistical motivation, you may have tables after tables on different indicators, but at the end of the day, you need some kind of a summary so that it gives you some sort of a synthesis of the picture. If I may use a metaphor, different indicators of human development or the human development accounting may represent a house, and the Human Development Index is the door to the house. My only plea would be, A, don't mistake the door to be the house, and B, please don't stop at the door, enter the house. The political motivation was, in this world, for every country, there is a favorite country to compare with. If you ask a Norwegian, it doesn't matter what happens to the rest of the world, but what happens in Sweden. If you ask a person from India, the rest of the world can go anywhere it wants to, but what she is interested in is what is happening in Pakistan. So when the Human Development Index was constructed and we ranked 174 countries, it started a kind of a healthy competition among these rival neighbors to surpass each other in terms of policy making, in terms of ensuring human well-being. So that is the rationale for constructing the Human Development Index back in 1990, to have a comprehensive summary measure of human development. And secondly, if I may quote Robert Kennedy, who once said that GNP per capita is a measure of our economic well-being. It shows the strength, economic strength of our nation. It captures the locks that we put on the door. It accounts for the people who break those doors and end up in jail. It takes account of drugs that are being produced and being used. It takes account of the napalm that we produce and use. But it does not take account the health and education of our children. It does not take account the strength of our community. It does not take account the creativity of our people. So in conclusion, GNP per capita takes care of everything except that which makes life worthwhile. And the HDI is a very humble alternative to capture about what life is all about. What is human development? Let me deal with that issue in 5 perspectives. What is the focus of human development? The focus of human development is basically to measure the average achievements of people in a country in certain basic dimensions of human life. So it's first an average measure. Second, it concentrates on basic dimensions of human life, to lead a long and healthy life, to be knowledgeable, and to enjoy a decent standard of living. Does it mean that other aspects of life are irrelevant? The whole question of participation, the whole question of human rights, the whole question of human security? The answer is no, it's not. Any concept in any discipline is much broader than any of its measurement. A measurement cannot fully capture the totality of the concept. Therefore, the concept of human development is broader than the Human Development Index. Human Development Index never wanted to capture the totality of human development. It just concentrates on the basic dimensions of human life and tries to measure the average achievement in those basic dimensions. Second, what are the criteria that we followed while we constructed the Human Development Index? We followed certain basic criteria. A, simplicity. An index must be very simple to understand and to interpret. And what is simple also has a greater predictive power. Second, universality. We constructed an index which can be equally applied to developing countries and the developed world. To lead a long and healthy life is something which is aspired by people both in the developing world and the developed world. Third, synthesis. The Human Development Index is a synthesis of a series of complex numbers. Fourth, attractiveness. It attracts your attention to the broader human development accounting and some of the issues that are relevant to the measure of human development. And fifth, its multidimensionality. It is not monocentric, which concentrates only on income, only on material production, only on economic growth, but it takes care of broader aspects of human life. The third what question is, what are the strengths, or let me say first, what are the dimensions and what are the variables that are included in the Human Development Index? As I mentioned, the three dimensions which are relevant to the Human Development Index are A, a long and healthy life, B, being knowledgeable, and C, a decent standard of living. What are the variables that we have used to reflect these three dimensions? A long and healthy life is being represented by life expectancy at birth. The dimension of knowledge is being represented by adult literacy rate and combined enrollment rate at primary, secondary, and tertiary level. And the decent standard of living is being reflected by GNP per capita GDP adjusted for purchasing power parity. Those three variables first are normalized, and then we take a simple average to come up with the Human Development Index. Next question, what are the strengths and the weaknesses of this index? It has 5 distinctive strengths. First, it is a summary measure of human development. Second, it's a measure which is not monocentric, but which is broader and goes beyond income and takes care of some of the dimensions of human life. We firmly believe that income is an important component of human development, but income is only a means to human development. It is not the end. Income is not the sum total of human lives. The third strength is that basically it can be disaggregated, because as an average measure, it masks a lot of things. And we all know the joke about the average. Half of your body may be in the fridge, the other half may be in the oven, and on average, you will be comfortable. So therefore, it has the potential of being disaggregated. Disaggregated in terms of gender, disaggregated in terms of rural-urban divide, disaggregated in terms of groups of people, ethnicity, races, regions, states, provinces. And those disaggregated results can really give you some sort of a mirror where you can see the full-length picture of the whole society. And fifth, you can also use Human Development Index for ranking countries. And by ranking countries, you create a kind of dynamism in terms of competition among countries for policies and so that. What are its weaknesses? Its first weakness is it's a composite index. And we all know that weaknesses of composite indices. So as a composite index, the HDI also shares some of the weaknesses of any composite index. Second, there is no claim on our part that Human Development Index is a comprehensive measure of human development. It is not. It just takes 3 dimensions of human development, focuses on it. If someone wants to have a comprehensive measure of human development in any country, then the Human Development Index must be complemented or supplemented with other indicators of human well-being. And third, there is a risk with the Human Development Index. It can be misused. We have seen that the Human Development Index has been used to refer a country as the best country on earth to live, or the Human Development Index has been referred as a measure of happiness, and third, it has been used as to say that it shows the quality of life in its fullest extent. I think all these are wrong. It has a limited perspective, and we should put it in that limited perspective. But there is always this weakness that it can be misused and misinterpreted. Then the question is who? Who are the users of this index? There are 5 groups of people who have been quite instrumental in using Human Development Index. One is, of course, the politicians. And they have used it in different contexts for highlighting their regime, for highlighting their policies, for rationalizing how they're doing, and that kind of thing. But on a serious note, the second group is the policymakers. It can be a very effective tool for policy making. Not the composite index itself, but when you disaggregate it, when you decompose it, it can be a tool which you can use for policy making in different areas of economy and human well-being. When the Human Development Index was disaggregated in Egypt, it was found that the Upper Egypt is below the Cairo region in every aspect of human indicator. And that has started a kind of debate and policy dialogue among the governors of 17 provinces of Egypt, the Minister for Finance, the Minister for Local Development, and the whole resource allocation mechanism has changed in Egypt. The third group which can really use this index are the institutions of civil society, the NGOs, the professional organizations, to make points, to create a debate and dialogue and discussion within the community can really effectively use this index. The fourth group is, of course, the academics. There have been lots of academic writing on this index. We are proud to say that at least 12 students, to the best of my knowledge, have done their PhD dissertation on this index. And if you open up any academic journal, you'd see some discussions of this index. So there are refinements in the methodology, there are refinements in the data, and the analytical framework that are being used. And finally, it is being used by researchers and students all over the place. The next point would be, what are the implications of this index in the Canadian context? Let me just make three observations. A, I'm very proud to report that for the last 11 years, I think in 8 years, Canada has ranked number 1 in the Human Development Index among 174 countries. There's no doubt that Canadians have made quite a progress in average human achievements in basic human dimensions. But first, this average achievement should not mask the kind of deprivations that may be present in the Canadian society. The average life expectancy in the Canadian society is 79 years. But today, 1 in every 10 person in this country is not expected to survive age 60. There may be 1 in every 6 Canadian who is functionally illiterate. And when I say functionally illiterate, it means that they may not read the instructions on a medicine bottle, or they may not read out a story to their children when they tuck them into bed. I'm not talking about reading the instructions on your tax forms and understand it. Nobody can. But if you cannot do the simple things in life, then you are functionally illiterate. The average income in Canada may be $20,000, but 1 in every 10 Canadians live in income poverty. So therefore, the average achievement should not drive away our focus from the kind of deprivations that may be here, number 1. Number 2, there is a need for disaggregating HDI in the Canadian context. If you do it for provinces, there may be different rate of progress, different levels of progress in different Canadian provinces. When people have disaggregated some of the indicators of the HDI for groups of people, particularly the indigenous people in Canada, we can see the deprivations of those groups. The average life expectancy in Canada is 79 years. And it's about 77 years for Canadian males. But the average life expectancy of an Inuit male is about 58 years. So therefore, when you disaggregate it in any way you like, you can really see where the problems are and what needs to be done. And finally, I think in the Canadian context, there have been some misinterpretations of this index. A number of years ago, I remember that in the Global Mail, when the Human Development Index was put on the press, it said that Canada is the best place on earth to live. I don't want to identify a place to be the best place to live just because of three indicators. I think my life is worth more and it is more multifaceted than those three indicators. So you should watch out so that the HDI is not misrepresented or misinterpreted. Finally, what are the experiences that we can share with you as you are embarking on your exercises? I think 7 points. First, it is quite important that you clearly define your objective. When you are trying to develop environmental indicators, be sure whether you are trying to develop pure environmental indicators or you are also interested in human implications of those indicators or both. Be sure that you are developing indicators to have a situation analysis or to monitor the progress over time. Because depending on the objective, you may have to choose your indicators. Second, the choice of indicators must be derived from an analytical framework. Do not just, like a magician, use a hat and just pull out indicators like rabbits. Because there must be an analytical framework where the whole indicator framework should fit. There should be some sort of a relationship between your objective, the dimensions you choose, the indicators that you pick up. Third, indicators must be chosen which have a policy twist. Let me give you an example. If you say that military expenditure as a percentage of GDP is the indicator, it may be 2%, it may be 20%, it may be 15%. But we do not know the level of the military expenditure because that would depend on what your GDP level is. If it is $100, 20% would mean $20. If it is $1,000, 20% would mean a higher number. But the moment you say that I'll change the indicator as a ratio between military expenditure and social sector expenditure, immediately you say that how much that society is spending on military compared to health and education. So that gives you a kind of policy twist which military expenditure as a percentage of GDP cannot. Third, while you choose the indicators, go for those which are available. But you should also innovate as time passes on. Because the situation is changing, the reality is changing. So you have to change your indicators, your dimensions as you pass on, and you have to go for more innovativeness. Fifth, any indicator that you choose would be irrelevant or would be of very little use if there are not robust data, meaningful data, consistent data, particularly in terms of a time series data. So the choice of indicators, looking out for indicators should also be coupled with strengthening your statistical capacity and producing robust series of data over time. Finally, if you go for composite indices, please be sure that it just opens door to a big house which can really be the building block of your whole exercise. In conclusion, since I began by reciting a poem, I'll end by reciting a poem also. This is a poem by Robert Frost, and the name of the poem is The Road Not Taken. And if my memory serves me right, the last 4 lines are like this. I shall be letting this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence, 2 roads diverged in the woods, and I, only I, took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. It would depend on you which road you take, and it would depend on you what would be the future of this society, what would be the future which would be affected by the work that it would be done. Because we firmly believe that in the ultimate analysis, human destiny is a choice and not a chance. Thank you.